Good evening, Crimson Tide Nation, and welcome to the 43rd edition of Alabama Crimson Tide Live, all right here on Alabama with the Voice College Football from yours truly, Jackson Johnson. And I've got with me as Coach Johnny Burts and Jeffrey from All Talk Sports, where we go over our take on the latest news and notes on the Crimson Tide. And let me tell you something, folks, you're going to be in for a wild ride. How you doing today, gentlemen?
Doing great. Excited about our special guest coming on.
Oh, yeah.
Doing good. I just got back from Prattville, Alabama. Do you know any, Jeffrey, of the only thing about Alabama? It's down around Montgomery. And I'm up here in Huntsville.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So, drove back today or this afternoon.
Well, I could tell you, the summer heat, I mean, summer's really started. I mean, because, like, if you've been watching, like, today's edition from Alabama with the Voice College Football, we flipped a couple guys, which, you know, we'll definitely be going over that at some point for sure. But there's been some smack talk from a certain quarterback. But we'll definitely go over that for sure. But you really want to get summer started, it's by going over the YouTube memberships of Alabama with the Voice College Football for $2.99 a month. You can become a Crimson Faithful member where you'll get a loyalty badge next to your name in the comments and in the live chat, and you get a custom emoji to use in the comment section and in the live chat, and you get member shoutouts. For $4.99 a month, you can become a Saban Disciple where you'll get a priority reply to comments and access to a monthly hangout from yours truly, Jackson Johnson, Coach Birch, Jeffrey Don't Talk Sports, Coach Smoke Hines, and Manny Wilson. And for $9.99 a month, you can become a Bear Bryant legend and give out content requests of any kind, neither rain, nor sleet, nor snow, nor bad weather of any kind, including this miserable Alabama heat. Will put a stop to us from fulfilling your content request on Alabama at the Voice College Football. All righty, gentlemen. So, a certain Boston College transfer who has gone over to Florida State, kind of shooting his mouth off some. Yeah, I mean, you made some big play on week one like your friend Tarkenton on the ACC network. But I don't think that's going to end well. So we see Thomas Castellanos calling out Alabama saying they don't have Nick Saban to save them. Gentlemen, what do you think about that?
I mean, it's bold words, man. I mean, especially considering, I mean, you're at a team that won 2 games last year, and his previous school that he was at, Boston College, was not good. Best season, they went 6-7. So, I just don't necessarily think I would be spouting those massive words at Alabama, considering, we're coming in week one to play them. I know it's going to be at their place. I get that. But I don't know. To me, I think that, those type words, would be maybe better left said if you beat Alabama. Like they don't have that Saban to save them anymore. That's why we were able to beat them. Instead of saying it now, because that just adds a lot of fuel to the fire. It adds a lot of fuel. And if that don't motivate us to destroy them in the fall, then I don't know what will.
And here again, these kids trying to generate clicks and controversy and that kind of stuff, and obviously it'll be locker room talk, but it's just, I don't know, take it a grain of salt. I mean, it's just somebody trying to generate clicks and interest, and maybe up that profile, that kind of stuff, but not smart, dumb. Just, I mean, when it backfires, you have no credibility. You're gone. You're done. You can shut it all down. It's all over. So you want to, talk it right now. That's great. But in the end, we'll see.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because, I think Florida State needs to focus on not throwing their hissy fits about the ACC and focusing on not raging on Kirk Herbstreit before they can focus on beating Bama first.
They got to focus on just having a decent year this year. Mike Norvell's toast.
And don't brag about beating Cal, because it's like...
Yeah, and Norvell needs to get his players under control, and we don't need this kind of stuff. And you're new, you're fresh, and you want to come in and create garbage and stuff like that. I mean, come on, it's only June. Come on. You have no
Yeah, it'd
credibility.
be a little different, like if he had been there like for 3-4 years
I
of
mean,
starting quarterback, and like he's got like a 2-1 record against Bama or something. It's like, no, he's a new quarterback transferring in from Boston College, right? Like he's new to the university, and they're coming off a 2-10 season. I mean, you cannot get any worse than that.
I know. If I'm a head coach, I mean, surely you bring them in and sit them in the team room and you say, hey, social media, you do this kind of crap. You're coming to see me, and we're not going to have this, and we're going to stir up controversy and all that kind of stuff. And it kind of makes you question, as an old coach like me, I question, head coach, do you have control, of the asylum? Do you have control of what's going on out there? Not a great way to introduce yourself. Well, he may think it's a great way, but great way. I'm getting clicks, but we'll see.
It'll only turn out good for him if they beat Alabama. That's the only way. I mean, if they lose, especially if they get beat 49-0, you'll see the memes. Oh, Saban's not there to save him. 49-0. Like it'll be all over the social media.
Jack, is he projected to be the starting quarterback?
Yes, he's got to be the starting quarterback for Florida State. I mean, dude led Boston College to victory against Florida State on Labor Day. Like, that's starter material right there.
Mm.
But I mean, don't shoot your mouth off on Bama. It never ends well, because we taught that young man at Bandy who was shooting his mouth off after beating Kansas State last in 2017. Like, shut him out. We shut him out. He's like, you're coming to our house. You're coming to our house. Like, yeah, okay.
Kids, I bet coach got to have control and say, look, we're not posting this kind of crap. we're in summer, and now we're in summer. We're just running sprints, and we're pumping iron, and all this other kind of stuff. We're not creating controversy and all that kind of stuff. Get you a little social media stuff, get it in check. So we'll see.
I mean, I do like Castellanos personally. I'm just not gonna like him on week 1.
Yeah, I mean, he's a pretty decent player. I mean, I always gave him credit for, with BC having such a bad O-line, he played pretty well. He was able to stand in there and take the hits and actually churn out somewhat of a decent product at BC. But I mean, it's not going to generate you a lot of thoughts his way. There's not going to be a lot of good discourse in his direction for what he just
credibility.
said. 98% of America is going to side with Alabama on this one. Like I said, the only way it turns out good for him is if they beat Bama in week 1, which is highly unlikely. I mean, really, I don't know on what planet it makes sense for him to say it. I don't.
What was BC's record last year? Remind me.
Well, they were 7-6, I believe.
7-6. I said 6-7. They won the bowl game, but I don't care about the bowl game.
Well, they lost to Nebraska at Yankee Stadium, actually.
So they're 6-7. They won 6-7, right?
7-6.
So they won 7-5 in the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I forgot. I thought they went 6-6 and lost. Yeah, I remember they lost the bowl game. I thought I was right, but 7-6. I don't care though. They're not good.
No,
well, they lost.
They played nobody last year, man.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, they did lose to No, they lost to Virginia. That was weird though. Like, they beat Florida State. They lost a tight one to Missouri. They lost to Virginia. I mean, that's a head scratcher right there. They lost to Virginia Tech on Thursday night, which, I mean, it's pretty much death taxes and losing to Virginia Tech at Lane Stadium on Thursday night. And they lost to Louisville in a tight fashion. Lost to SMU in the regular season rematch of the 2023 Fenway Bowl.
I ain't thought about Boston College since Doug Flutie played. I mean, that's how far off the map.
Matt Ryan was like literally the only other thing.
I know.
Matt Ryan, right? He was something. But yeah, Flutie and the Hail Mary and all that. That was in the 80s. So,
like, when I think of like great moments of Boston College, I'm thinking about like Matt Ryan having his game-winning touchdown passes against Virginia Tech, Clemson in 2007, and that one moment from Castellanos in 2023. And, Bill O'Brien, I mean, he's going to do fine over at Boston College. But, like, Hafley leaving for the Packers, I mean, that's another topic for another day. But like Florida State, they're just kind of like, if we can't beat them, we're gonna poach them. I mean, I think that's gonna be a good strategy, but it's just not gonna be a good day for Florida State.
My thing is like as much money supposedly as Florida State you would think would have. I mean, Castellanos was nowhere near the best quarterback in the portal, not even close. And they desperately needed a complete overhaul. And yeah, they got some all right players, but nothing to me really just strikes off the page that they're going to be a vastly improved team. I mean, the ACC is weak, so they could not even be that improved and go 7-6. Florida State, I'm talking about. Look at BC. That's what I'm saying. Like 6-7, 7-6. It doesn't matter. That's not very good in the ACC. The ACC is a weak league. It's a very weak conference. SMU went 11-2. SMU went 11-2. You saw what happened to them.
Yeah.
So the thing is the ACC is not strong. It's just not a great league right now. They don't have any quality teams hardly at all. I mean, Bill Belichick could go 9-3 at UNC, and the team could still be mid. I mean, it's just the way that it is. I could see Florida State having a winning record, but they have no business keeping it close against Bama. The only way Bama loses is if we play like we did last year against Oklahoma. That's it.
Yeah,
that's the only way we don't win.
I don't think I would not predict that in the first game, and only other maybe problematic or if somebody gets injured. But first game, everybody's gonna be fired up it's a big game. So I think it'll be very telling about Alabama and Florida State where they are.
Absolutely.
I want to see if Frank Reich and Stanford are going to make life terrible for Florida State on October 18th. I mean, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it'll be of our lifetime, Frank Reich leading his team into something.
The thing with Frank Reich is he's getting terrible jobs, man. I mean, he got the Panthers job, and it's like the Panthers they're a tough place to win at right now because, for one thing, we live in an age where you need to be given time to win. And he was given 1 year, and he didn't win anything, so they got rid of him. It's like, what are you going to be able to do in that span with a bad team? Now he gets the Stanford job, and it's like Stanford stinks. So the problem is that it's going to be very hard for him to turn them into anything because the days of Harbaugh and David Shaw are over. I mean, it's gone. They don't have quality players coming into their program anymore. They're an academic school. They don't have players. They don't even have fans in their stadium. They don't get good players. Anybody that's really, really talented on the field, even if they commit to Stanford at first, they end up leaving to go play at a football school, even if they're good academically. There's really no perk to go to Stanford unless you know for a fact that, hey, I'm going to be a CEO or something. It's just not a good place to play in this NIL era. It's terrible if you're a good player.
We always used to say Stanford and Georgia Tech about on the same track. I mean, they'll throw because they're good universities. They'll throw some good players and good, whatever, that kind of stuff. But historically, they're kind of like, we always used to throw them in the same boat.
Right now, Georgia Tech's decent and Stanford is abysmal right now.
Man, I feel like Brent Key's he's going to get things rocking and rolling for Georgia Tech. But it's a good thing for Florida State that Georgia Tech's not on that schedule this year. But Clemson, that's going to be a nightmare for them. Virginia Tech, it's a good thing Virginia Tech's not a Thursday night road game for Florida State. But I don't know. Like Florida State, I want to say 8-4, 9-3 for now. It's like
I'm trying to remember what I even predicted with Will. You remember, Jackson? You remember that? When I did my predictions with
I should have gone back to watch it. My bad.
I think I said 7-5. I think. I think that's what I said for Florida State, but I can't remember. I didn't go below 6-6. I don't think I said 6-6. I think I said 7-5, but I can't remember.
We're on wait and see mode with Florida State. I mean, if they're going 6-6, I mean,
7-5 is what I'm interested in. If they go 7-5, is that enough for Norvell? Is it enough? Because that to me is borderline.
Oh, that'll get you like a vote of confidence.
Yeah, it's borderline. Like I could see it going that route, or I could still see them getting rid of him. Depends on how they go 7-5. It's kind of like Bama last year going 9-3, but it's the way we went 9-3. Like if there's a couple games where Florida State just gets blown out, like if they're competitive against Bama, and then they go 7-5, or competitive in a couple other big games, then he'll stay. But if there's like 3 blowouts in that list, then Mike Norvell's toast. I'm laughing at the comments here about Bama not having a 500 season, Jackson. I mean, I would highly doubt that, man. I'm not. I mean, like, I would highly doubt that. That's all I'm gonna say. That's like a 0.01% chance that would happen. It's not happening.
Oh yeah. Well, gentlemen, I gotta ask you, what's a good 4th of July thing to do? Like, what's something good to get for 4th of July? What's something good to get on July 8th, for example?
Well, give me some suggestions, man. What you holding back on us?
I mean,
1990s reset.
Something back. I can tell.
I don't really have a good suggestion.
What you got?
1990s reset is what I know.
Yeah.
Well, there's that, but I think this doppelganger of Mark Rogers can tell us.
You can make a difference here at the Voice of College Football. Use the Amazon link. Financially contribute to the Voice of College Football without spending a penny. Same shopping experience. It's easy. Go to any video on any channel. Go to the description section and grab the link right next to the capital letters that say Amazon. Use that link, and Amazon will instantaneously convert to your account, settings, history, everything intact, just like whatever link you use right now. No difference. Pay no attention to the product that you see right there. Just go search what you want. Don't forget the Amazon link. Thank you for your support. Sincerely, the Voice of College Football.
That's right. You can shop on Amazon using the link to support the Voice of College Football. You don't need to buy the product displayed. You get the same shopping experience. Doesn't cost you a penny, and you get the link down below. Well, I can tell you this. It's going to be fun seeing what's going on with the Crimson Tide. But I can tell you, C.J. Mosley retired on Thursday. How you feel about that, man?
Gosh, how many years?
11.
11. That's a lifetime in the NFL, man. That's
it's not like the NBA where people are playing 20 seasons, man. Like LeBron. I mean, in the NFL, 11 is a very healthy career, definitely.
Yeah. Good player, good kid. I remember he was a very, very, I guess, important figure for the Nick Saban era. I know Coach Saban leaned on him a lot because, I mean, he was a stand-up guy and always played well. Great speed too. I remember great speed, great aggressiveness. Nose for the football. Good player.
Oh yeah. And it's a shame they didn't really get that many reigns, or any reigns for that matter. But oh well, that's all right. He did just fine. But
yeah, I mean, definitely as a player, you want to win, the Super Bowl. You want to win like the NBA title or whatever sport you're playing in, Stanley Cup and hockey, all that stuff. But to have a healthy, long, successful career, that's about all you can ask for. Most players would love for that. I mean, some get in the league and they're in the practice squad or they're there for a year and then their career is over. They get, I don't want to say kicked out of the league, but like there's no place for them. They're not good enough. Like to have a long, successful career, that's still an amazing thing to have for CJ.
Yeah, and then he's going to benefit from the NFL pension fund. And you have to play a certain number of years, and then you're in the NFL pension fund. He's going to benefit for that the rest of his life. So kudos for him. He earned it, most definitely. Never been any trouble, no problems that I know of. Maybe I've never heard of any bad word, anything against negative about C.J. Mosley. So quality individual. Maybe the university can bring him in like AJ.
Yeah. Well, and the fact also was like I remember the day where there's the breaking news item that he's going to be signing with the Jets. Everybody was just getting really excited about it, but it was like, yeah, you're signing with the Jets. And especially when you got Adam Gase head coach, all of it. No. And ladies and gentlemen, we've got a special guest for you. He is the founder and CEO of the Voice of College Football. You see him Mondays through Fridays on the College Football Show, 3 p.m. Central Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And he is the writer of Disputed National Champions, College Football's Historical 1990s Reset, the one and only himself, Mark Rogers. How you doing tonight, good buddy?
I am doing well. Look at this crew. This is a heck of a show right here with these three. Yeah. Definitely. Coach Burks, good to see you, sir.
Oh, likewise.
Jeffrey, appreciate all that you do.
You.
Good to see you. Yep.
Thanks.
Well, let's go ahead and get started with the 90s, especially with the Disputed National Champions College Football Historical 1990s Reset. So I was looking at two of the seasons, and one of them was 1994, for example. Like, Mark, you were at the Alabama-Vanderbilt game for the second game of the season, and Coach, you told me you were there as well.
Mm-hmm.
What was that experience like exactly?
Well, I got to tell you that so that was right when I started my job at WCBI CBS station in Columbus, Mississippi, and just got my sportscasting job there. So I was new to Mississippi, new to the SEC, obviously watched it on TV, but was new to covering Alabama, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. And so I was just trying to get my feet wet and learn the job. And that was the first college football game I ever covered. And so that was just, you know, the game could have been horrible. The game could have been anything. And it was just, you know, more of the magnitude of the stadium and the setup, and then going to the locker room and interviewing players and going to Gene Stallings' news conference and all of that. Just the rush of being faced with working all that for the first time.
Mark, were you on the sidelines, or did you or did you shuffle back and forth? And
I remember being on the sidelines for that game, and I usually was on the sidelines for the games. Yeah, yeah. I think it was 14-6, so it was a typical Alabama, or typical for that era. Gene Stallings, let's not throw it too many times and just grind it down. And yeah, I think they won 14 to maybe 17-6, something in that range. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Bama Vanderbilt games were a little bit sloppy in that time. Like 92, like our defense bailed us out against Vandy, and 94, that was another sloppy win, but you know, a win's a win.
Yeah. I was a Coach Stallings always said there's no such thing as an ugly win. I don't know if it was him, but I know it's associated with him about, you know, no such thing. And but yeah, those were interesting times. But Coach Stallings, it was all about the defense until it kind of changed a little bit after the for some part after the Miami national championship game, when Alabama had that, you know, such a good night on offense and defense. But yeah, Coach Stallings, he put a lot of emphasis on defense.
Yeah, you would think that after that 92 run that kind of talk would die down. But again, I arrived in 94 and would go to Coach Stallings' news conference every week. And there were always questions about, what are you going to do to rev up this pass offense? And you know, the 8 for, you know, 16 for 52 yards passing the week before, even in a win, would cause some people to just drive them nuts. And
I think people were complaining about that back then, and like, you know, then you think today with Kirk Ferentz in Iowa, I mean, how big of a deal it was now, but like the fact people were complaining then about Alabama doing that, you know, it was bad, because back then people did not throw the ball as much.
Yeah. Hey, Mark, remind me, was Mal Moore still offensive coordinator?
Mal Moore, yes, absolutely. Yeah. If you would have asked me the offensive coordinator, I might have scratched my head for about 3 minutes before I came up with Mal Moore, but it was absolutely, yes, Mal Moore.
Yeah. I say my father-in-law played at Alabama in the 60s with Coach Bryant, he was there 63, 4, 5, and 6. And Mal Moore and, those guys were down there at the time. And Coach Stallings was coaching for Coach Bryan at the time. So I was lucky enough being, he's my father-in-law. I was lucky enough to meet all those guys and everything. And those were some really significant figures. If you think about it, the character, you're looking at Gene Stallings, you're looking at Coach Bryant, you're looking at Mal Moore. You're looking at some high character individuals during that period of time. And then, that's the 60s. And then all of a sudden now they're in the 90s. And so you can see where when Coach Stallings in Alabama moved and had the great run with the undefeated, just consecutive wins, you can see how that character kind of just blended and flew right along within, those teams and those decades for that matter.
I got to think that there was a level of pressure on Stallings getting the head coaching job because they had hired two of Bear Bryant's disciples in the 80s, Bill Curry, Ray Perkins, and they had various success. It wasn't like they were complete failures by any stretch. They had some really good teams, but did not meet. I think they won the SEC. Bill Curry won the SEC in '89, but they lost to Auburn, and so that put a tarnish on going to the Sugar Bowl, losing to Auburn, and then they lost to Miami in the Sugar Bowl. And that was their only SEC
if you remember, that was the first time that the game was played in Auburn.
That's
Remember,
right.
It had been at Legion Field, and then
that was CBS.
Yeah.
4 straight loss for Alabama against Auburn that year.
Glad we don't have that anymore.
Oh, good grief.
Tommy Tuberville.
Yeah, there you go.
Did what, 6 in a row?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but LA
probably be elected governor of Alabama. I didn't mind Coach Tuberville. I thought he was a good guy. He was a good coach, and hey, he won.
I still remember when Tommy Tuberville said that Indiana bought their team, though. That still cracked me up.
Coach, I thought Tommy Tuberville was a great guy. My Tommy Tuberville story, I've got a few, but the first one was, 1994 was my first year, down in Mississippi, covering all those teams. And so SEC Media Days was actually in 1995. So the sports director at our station left, and I got promoted to sports director to run the department. And I had just gotten that job, and then SEC Media Days rolled around, and Tuberville took over for Joe Lee Dunn. Was his first year at Ole Miss was 1995, and they were having a coaches clinic party, whatever they were having down the street. We were in downtown Birmingham, probably in Hoover, actually, wherever they had SEC Media Days at the time. It was close to Birmingham. Anyway, Tommy Tuberville was nice enough, didn't know me at the time, nice enough to leave the coaches' meetings, come down like 5, 6, 7 blocks, and be on live on the news that night. I needed him at a specific time, and boom, he showed up. He was right there, did an interview. And that was a really good relationship between us for the next 6 or 7 years. Well, he went to Auburn in '98 after the '98 season, but he would let me walk on the practice field and interview him right in the middle of practice. We'd bring our satellite truck up there to do practice during spring practice and August camp. And he was really good to me. Would let us set up in his office during National Signing Day and have him run through the whiteboard and do the whole thing. And he was really good to us.
Hey, Mark, let me ask you this. Was it Tuberville? It's been a long time. A lot of years have flown by. Was it Tuberville that replaced Billy Brewer?
So it was Joe Lee Dunn was the interim coach.
Yeah.
In '90 was defensive coordinator, and when they almost got the death penalty, he was the interim coach in '94. That's when I got there. So they did have that bridge between Brewer and Tuberville.
Were you there, Chucky Mullins?
I was not. I missed that.
Mm-hmm.
That was in '92, I want to say.
Okay.
I just missed that. There was still a lot, talked about. And
hey, did you ever zoom over there to Cleveland, Mississippi, and cover Delta State?
I did not.
That's where I was.
Personally.
You and I could have met. We could have been friends.
Had I known. Had
Let
I
me ask you
known.
this. Let me
Better
ask you
late
this.
than never, right?
Yeah. Hey, did you cruise down there to Scuba?
Scuba. I remember that name. That was where the community college was, right?
Yeah, East Miss.
Yeah. Now
Yeah,
that's
East
another.
Miss.
Yeah. We had our hands full covering Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and Alabama, and that's what obviously everyone wanted to hear about. So, you know, I was always grabbing every extra cameraman to. Friday nights were so fun, and we would I threw a camera in everybody's hand I could find to go cover a high school football game.
Yeah.
And run around Mississippi. Yeah, it was fun. It's a great job.
Yeah, well, after I played football high school in Alabama, and then I signed a scholarship with East Mississippi over in Scuba. Randall Bradbury was the coach, and I played there a year, and then I transferred from there to Delta State. Of course, I had to sit out back then. Remember, you couldn't transfer and immediately become eligible. You had to sit out a year, which I think they need to reinstitute that, and that'll settle some things. But and so then I was over there at Delta State. And this is the mid '80s and stuff like that. And my coach there was Red Parker, and then Red Parker became the offense coordinator at he left Delta State and became the offense coordinator at Ole Miss with Billy Brewer. And so and that's when you had the Chucky Mullins and all that kind of stuff. So I know some of that period of time over there in Mississippi. And I'll tell you this, one of my teammates at Delta State, who is from North Alabama over here, Huntsville area, Buddy Stevens. Remember Last Chance U?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, Buddy was, we would shuffle back and forth, drive back and forth from Delta State to Huntsville, or the Huntsville area, and now he's head coach over there at Scuba Tech. That's what we called it, East Miss. And so I told Jack we need to get him on the show and have a conversation.
Well, there was one season I was really looking back at, and that was the famous 1992 national championship, the 12th national title, where we were in the SEC title game, courtesy of our victory in the SEC West championship game against Mississippi State, which was on ESPN. Amazing victory. And then later on, we're beating Auburn on Thanksgiving Day, which, good grief, like that's the last time we played on Thanksgiving Day. Like 1964, 1992 are two times that I know of that the Iron Bowl was on Thanksgiving Day. But the SEC title game, week later, like Roy Kramer, like a lot of people are kind of looking at him strange, go, what if Alabama loses to Florida? What if Alabama loses to Florida? Then you got Antonio Langham getting that game-winning interception. So, Coach Mark, y'all got to witness it in real time. Mm-hmm. What was it like being able to see that first SEC title game on ABC at that time?
Yeah, so
go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, obviously that's a big part of the book, is talking about this invention of a conference championship game, which I thought was so cool, because I think also being an NFL fan, you could make this kind of connection to like, okay, this is kind of like a playoff game. This is interesting. This is really cool. And of course, Arkansas and South Carolina got added that year to bring the SEC to 12 teams so that they could split into two divisions. And it seemed like an amazing idea, but I don't think there were many people that thought about what the consequences could be. Like during the season, most people just thought this is going to be really interesting. This is going to be fun, that there's going to be an actual championship game to decide the conference champion, until we got to the end of the season. And then people in the media, they should have been thinking ahead, were like, okay, the same people that were praising Roy Kramer as being a visionary, and this is a great idea, and this is phenomenal, and this is going to put the SEC in a spotlight that no other conferences are going to be in. It's a moneymaker. It's all these things. He's a visionary. Oh, no, wait a minute. He put the SEC in jeopardy. What's he doing? That was a stupid thing to do. They could lose to Florida, and they're going to get knocked out of the national championship game, and why would he do that? And that was really stupid, and he's risking the conference. And part of the deal.
it was at that time too that Coach Spurrier was on the rise, and
yeah,
Florida was a dang pretty good. Florida was a great team, not pretty good. They were a great team, and they had beaten Alabama the year before. I think Emmitt Smith. I think they had played in Tuscaloosa. I was at the game, and I mean, it was scalding. It was so hot. I may have the dates wrong, but I think it was about that time. And then you're like, oh, then the next year, and here we go. And it a lot of pressure. And I guess everybody seemed to think that if Alabama lost, then it was the worst decision ever made in college football history. And so the pressure was on.
Yeah.
And it was a dang good game. That was the bottom line. It was a good game.
Well, and I was looking at 1999 the other day on the book. And Mark, I saw where you had Alabama in the semifinals against Florida State. And all I could say is, thank God that didn't exist, because like the Seminoles, I mean, they stomped a mud hole in everybody. I mean, it's like we already got our butts handed to us by Virginia Tech in '98 without Michael Vick. Like, imagine Michael Vick in 1999 going against Alabama. Like, no.
Yeah, that I got to reference my book because it's been so long since I looked at it. That must have been one of those years that it would have been for the fourth spot just a ridiculous call to make. To actually figure out who would have gotten that fourth spot. But yeah, that was the projection I made. But there were all sorts of teams that would have been, Alabama's at 10-2, Michigan, Wisconsin sitting there with the same records, but obviously Alabama the advantage of winning a conference championship game, and Michigan and Wisconsin at 9-2. So that was the tiebreaker there that I figured would be pretty logical. Yeah.
Well, and Stanford, I know, won the Pac-10 in 1999, and I saw where he had the conference tiles, what they would have looked like if it was what it looked like as it currently looks like now. You had Stanford going against Florida State for the ACC. If it was what it was currently was, well, honestly, it would have felt like Florida State just steamrolling everyone, like as they still were in the 90s. Like, good grief. But we got this super chat comment from our buddy Sports Talk with Austin for $2. We appreciate it very much. And he says, go Cards and roll Tide. We appreciate it very much, Austin. And I could tell you this, the 90s are always a fun decade.
Real quick, Jackson, I just want to note the 94 Alabama team. Ooh. They get forgotten because they were winning. Well, you mentioned right when I jumped on, the Vanderbilt game was the first game I attended, but then they just continued to win these really ugly games. Mm-hmm. And for a large portion of the season got no credit in the polls, and then they finally just had to, by default, because the other teams were losing, elevate them. But they were just winning these ugly games. And people forget, and Coach Burks made a comment about Spurrier's offense, and people were so enamored with, and it was impressive to watch, that nobody gave them a chance to play with Florida in the SEC championship game. And I went to that game. I covered that game in the old Georgia Dome, and it was a heck of a game, 24-23, and Alabama came that close to go into play for another national championship in 94. And that team kind of gets forgotten. They beat Ohio State in the Citrus Bowl. They dropped all the way from a national championship appearance at the Citrus Bowl.
Oh, yeah. I remember the Daniel Moore painting of Jay Barker throwing that game winner against Ohio State in the 95 Citrus Bowl.
Yep. Yeah, it was a tie game with about a minute left, 45 seconds left, and he threw a little dump off to Sherman Williams. Took it to the house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's when Spurrier was. That was everybody was running the press man, and then Spurrier started. It was the timing routes, and so everything was mechanized, and you're throwing, on time, and that kind of stuff. And not a lot of teams have been, adjusted, kind of to that, get it, throwing on time. And so that kind of brought forth the press man to eliminate what Spurrier was doing with, that, teams were playing off the receivers, and the receivers were, running, blah, 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 1, 2, 3, and in their head they're counting, and the ball was already gone before the receiver had even turned. And Spurrier had, he had perfected that. And so that's when Bill Oliver came into the godfather of the press man, came and shoving, putting hands on them and throwing, trying to get rid of that Spurrier offense that was so successful. I mean, it was so successful. And then after that came the, back shoulder throws and the evolution of it. But yeah, it all started in that generation, the early 90s.
I got a question for you, Mark, about the 90s with Bama. I feel like when you look at a lot of the discussion around Bama, it's just Bear Bryant and then it's Nick Saban, and for good reason, because those two, they have most of the titles for Alabama. It's the two best runs for Alabama by far, the two most historic runs by coaches ever in college football history. But people often overlook the 90s and Gene Stallings and like how we weren't bad, right? Like we actually were still pretty good. I guess basically what I'm trying to ask is like, do you feel like that era was good enough for, people's, discussion of saying like Alabama between Bear Bryant and Saban were trash. They were no good, for that to be unfair and unvalid? Because I feel like it is. I feel like we were still good enough in that era to dispute that claim.
Well, let me ask you this. I'm going to follow that up with, is it still, I got to look at statistics, but I remember a while back that, is it like with Coach Bryant, every coach at Alabama, including Coach Bryant, that coached there won at least 10 games in at least one season. I mean, Mike Shula didn't
Mike Shula did?
Yep. 10 games.
And then DeBose won the SEC championship.
Yep. In 99.
Yep.
Yeah.
He stepped up when his butt was on the hot seat. So.
Brady Millins.
Yep.
Yeah, I think if you just look at Gene Stallings' 4-year run from 91 to 94, you could say exactly that he took over a really good program, not a great program, but a really strong top 10 to 15 program at the time, from Bill Curry, who we mentioned won an SEC championship, went to the Sugar Bowl in 89. Gene Stallings, they went 11-1 in 91. They had the national championship run in 92, and nobody gave them any shot in that game.
Mm-hmm.
And for them to pull off that win, finish undefeated, and then they went back to the SEC championship game in 93, even though they had a down year. They lost 3 games, but they went back to the SEC championship game. Florida won in 93. Then to get back there, and again, to come within 1 point of what would have been an Alabama-Nebraska bowl game. The bowl coalition would have teed those two up, and they would have played it. I don't know if they would have played in the sugar or the orange, because obviously Alabama, Florida winning the 94 SEC championship went to the sugar, and then of course Nebraska played in the orange, but they would have paired those two up. So they had a 4-year run where they only lost 5 games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm glad Alabama didn't go against Nebraska in that time. That would have been ugly for us.
You know what? I'd love to see Gene Stallings today. I'd love to see somebody interview him, and I know he's out there on the ranch in Texas and that kind of stuff. But that was a great guy. He had that voice, and you just when you met him. Yeah. I mean, Mark, I met him too. I mean, you just that guy was.
Yeah, he had a presence. He definitely
had a presence. Yeah, he was so humble and such a good friggin' guy. And oh my Lord,
I think I do, and most people tend to be impressed by guys that are that have that kind of presence, that kind of confidence, but such a quiet confidence. He was still humble. But still, he was sure of himself and extremely confident. And yeah, he had a rumbling voice that was so deep and strong, boy. Yeah.
You make an excellent point on that, Mark, because I noticed that on what you said about Gene Stallings, because he had a lot of confidence, like that quiet confidence, nothing braggadocious, but he just had a lot of confidence when he was in that interview with Keith Jackson on that little 1992 Alabama National Championship video, where they were like doing a recap of that whole season. And, at the end of it, he's like, well, what are you going to do for 1993? And he goes, we're going to try to repeat for the 1993 season. So there you go. I mean, it was pretty cool. like looking back at it.
He was, Coach Stallings was so genuine, not a fake, phony thing about that guy. I mean, he was truly genuine. I mean, and then Alabama's been lucky to have guys like Coach Bryant was genuine, Coach Stallings genuine, Nick Saban genuine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's crazy though because of the fact, like when I was a kid, like everybody was always telling me like Bear Bryant was a legend, and then Saban was like on the rise as I started watching football. I was 5 in 2009, so that's when they won the first championship with Saban, and then like over time they started winning more and more of them, and then everyone was like, oh, it's Bryant and Saban, and then I go back and watch the Stallings era, and I'm like, hey, they were good here too. It's like I know the early 2000s were bad, but like even then, it's not Nebraska is today. It's not like we ever completely fell off a cliff. Like Ohio State, like I've heard you say multiple times, Mark, before, like Ohio State's been like the most consistent program historically ever because like they dominate the Big Ten, or they have dominated the Big Ten throughout, 6, 7, 8 decades. Yeah, Michigan's had moments of taking it, but like Ohio State, they rarely have really bad seasons. Alabama's had a few, but we really haven't had like that many crazy bad like eras of like 10, 20 years we've just been trashed. We've had off years, but we've been pretty great. Like Alabama and Ohio State, definitely two of the most consistent. Ohio State probably the most consistent, but I just don't think it's fair to necessarily just throw out all of Alabama's other eras, especially the 90s, what we're talking about here, because we had that good run.
Mark, let me ask you a question.
Yep.
Mike Shula.
Yeah.
Where are you on the Shula?
Oh, wow. That's been a long time. I haven't thought about Mike Shula much. So Mike Shula was still the coach when they beat Texas Tech in the Cotton Bowl, right?
Yeah, they went 10-2.
10-2 that year.
We lost to Auburn, LSU that year, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That's on Cam. But I didn't know if he succumbed to the influences and things external, being a former player, and then other people trying to come in and people he knew, and he was young. I thought he had a good mind. I thought he offense coordinator. He was pretty good, that kind of stuff. But I didn't know if the external factors of people. He was young, and then people older than him that he probably knew as a player while he was there coming in and trying to.
I left by that time, so I did not cover him. Yeah, I left in 2000. But Jeffrey said something that reminded me of a statement that since we were just talking Gene Stallings, and then he brought up Ohio State, that I thought was rather interesting, that I haven't thought about in ages, but it just came to mind because Gene Stallings was having his pre-Citrus Bowl news conference, and we were there, and you could tell that the Alabama media was painting this as is Ohio State like looking up to Alabama, playing Alabama, like Alabama's Alabama, and everyone that would play Alabama outside the conference, especially, would they be in awe of we're playing Alabama? And Gene Stallings, fielded about 3 of these questions, and then you could tell he was kind of thinking, I don't know that you people really understand, and he did say something about, I think you're too entrenched in the SEC and Alabama, and you don't understand that we're Ohio State here and they're Alabama there. They don't look at us as anything to be in awe of, just like we shouldn't look at them like that. They're not looking at us like that. You don't really understand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a certain amount of mutual respect.
Yeah.
And which is important for people to understand. They'll just think it's just walk in and, just because we've had all the success, we can just run in. And Mark, let me ask you this: since Ohio, where were you the night old Woody pulled the punch? You watching that game?
Oh, I was watching that game, of course. Yeah, I was like probably about 2 feet from the TV. I was watching games. I was 8 years old. Watching the game, so I was part.
Yeah, when you're a kid, especially with the TV quality back then, you're always watching close to the TV screen.
And what I found amazing about that situation was, and I don't know that college football fans can relate to this now, because if Alabama's playing in a Gator Bowl and they're 7-3, you know, Ohio State was 7-3-1 going into that game. It was just a horrible season by their standards, and you know, but it still meant the world to me. You know, I'm 8 years old. I'm watching this. This is still,
and especially
you know,
the Woody.
it's a bowl game. It's just everything. You know, I'm just crushed.
Everything.
When you know, Art Schlechter was a freshman quarterback that year, turned out to be a great Ohio State legend, but he was just a freshman and threw 21 interceptions that year, and that was the last one. And they were driving down the field they were 5-6 yards from field goal range to win the game, and he throws a pick, doesn't see the linebacker, throws a pick. Charlie Ballman runs to the sideline, and we've all seen the tape. Woody Hayes. What was amazing is Keith Jackson and Frank Broyles were doing the play of that game, and they acted like they had no idea what they saw. Like, Keith Jackson's like, "There's a raucus down there," and he's just like, and I'm like, "He punched him. That's what happened." They're like, "We don't know what happened down there."
Oh my God. You know, I don't know.
Oh man, like bro broke a man's camera.
I was a little older than you, and I was sitting there, you know, just, you know, big fan, and I mean, it's, you know, Ohio State, Clemson, they're in the Gator Bowl. It was a Gator Bowl, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a big bowl. That's back when we didn't have 40 bowl games. So,
it was
it was a great bowl game, and it's Ohio State and Alabama. You know, the history with Alabama, and you know, the Sugar Bowl and all that kind of stuff. And man, to see that was just like, and he was ticked. And I don't know what led up and what precipitated that and all that kind of stuff. But man, you were, after you saw it, you were like, you shook your head. Did I just really? And in today's world, probably nobody think anything about it. But well, they probably would. But man, that was historical.
Yeah,
wow.
That was,
and he was so respected. I read his biography, you know, paperback, and he was a big, you know, military, believed in the military, and such a good guy. And
it's crazy how you can be remembered for like one thing. You know, like every time he gets brought up, it's like, oh yeah.
And I always loved to hear him talk. You know, he had that, I don't know, he had that, I'm not going to say Yankee accent. It wasn't really Yankee.
He had that Sylvester the Cat voice.
He just had that accent, and you knew it. So you didn't even have to, if you knew anything about sports, when you could be listen to the radio and you hear this voice, you knew it was Woody Hayes.
Yeah. Well,
and
Jackson brought up him busting somebody's camera. Like, I'm going to tell Jeffrey and Jackson, if they haven't heard this, this is just unthinkable. Like watching a game today that more than once, I think maybe it happened just twice. It's not like he was doing it every other game, but he took the yardstick to mark the first down and took it, just busted it over his knee and just threw it down. Like, can you imagine a coach doing that now?
Oh yeah, it's like Bobby Knight throwing the chair. I mean, it's stuff like that you just don't see anymore.
Oh yeah, but you know, guys, it was beautiful. I mean, everybody's shocked at the time, but we look at it. But I look back now, and that just tells you how intense and how much love and how much passion. And yeah, you can always whatever, but to see that old guy with that much passion at his age and at that time in history, I mean, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. It didn't bother me a lick.
It's just too bad Bear Bryant and Woody Hayes only went up against each other once in the '78 Sugar Bowl. Like, that was just too bad.
Oh, that was epic. That was epic. Man. And then to follow that up, it was Joe Paterno and Penn State. Gosh, those days. Oh, yeah, man. It was epic.
Well, Al Michaels was lucky to call one of the games in 1981 where Bear Bryant was getting win number 14 to tie Amos Alonzo's Stags.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that video of him and this woman, this female reporter's on the sideline, and he's like, I don't have to apologize who I play. I'm trying to win the game. You ever seen that one?
Yep. 82 Iron Bowl.
Yeah, 82 Iron Bowl. Yeah, well, we're not going to fumble anymore. We got that was back when that sideline interview started. You could tell he didn't have time. He didn't care to talk to anybody at that time.
Oh, man. That is for sure. Have we got another super chat contribution from Sports Talk with Austin for $2? We appreciate it very much. And he asked, better decade for Alabama, the 90s or 2010s? Mark will let you
Absolutely,
go
the
first.
2010s. I mean,
2010, no
that's
doubt.
I mean, that's not even a question.
True.
I appreciate it, Austin, but yeah, that's not close.
Well, how would you rank them, Mark? All right, Alabama, you got 60s. All right, now we can go back 50s and 40s and 30s. I don't know that kind of stuff. But historically, you got the 60s, and then Coach Bryant went on that legendary run in the 70s, okay, with SEC titles. Then the 80s, then the 90s, 2000s, 2010s. How would you think about it?
Without sitting here, and I like to be precise on these things, and this would be like a topic for a video where I'd look at the actual
study it,
the whole deal, and study it. But the 2010s, you're looking at how many national championships? 12, 15, 17. What did I miss?
And 2011.
I missed 11. 11, 12, 15, 17. You're looking at 4 national championships. They played in another 2 or 3. 2016, 2018. So they played in another 2. They played in 6 national championship games in a decade and won 4.
Made the playoffs like every year.
Yeah, their worst year was 2010 and 19. They went 10-3, and they were still one of the 7 or 8 best teams in the country both of those years. Yeah, wow. I'd have to go back. Like you say, in the 60s with Stabler and Namath, they were phenomenal with what they win. They won at least 3 national titles in the 60s, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and the controversy was 66. And Alabama was the only undefeated. They call it down here. They call it the missing ring. My father-in-law played on the 66 team, or he played 4, 5, and 6. He's got 3 of those, or he's got 2, and then he's got the one that players wear. It's called the missing ring, that represents the 66 season. Yeah. And so that was the one where Michigan State.
That's going to be a perfect topic for the 60s reset.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
They didn't play. You remember Michigan State? They didn't play the bowl game.
And
the rumor is they didn't want a 3. Alabama would have been the first team ever to 3-peat. I don't know. I don't buy into all that and that kind of stuff. But yeah, that was a great run. And then the 70s, that was another great run.
Absolutely. Well, I will say this in regards to Alabama's national championships. Anytime somebody wants to jump on Alabama and go crazy about all their national championships and they claim too many of them and so forth, I looked into this once and I thought, okay, I'm going to look at these 18 national championships and I'm going to go through every year. Not only that they won national championships, but the ones that they were close to winning, that they weren't. And when I say winning, let's understand, they were back then awarded national championships. They didn't necessarily win national championships. They were awarded national championships. You know what I found? I found that 2 of their 18 national championships, I would not consider national championships. I can't even remember the years right now, but one was like a 2-loss, 2-tie season.
1941.
I took 2 national titles from them. However, I gave them 2 additional national titles in years, that being 1 year right there, 1965 or 66. And then another season that I can't come up with off the top of my head.
Probably in the 70s.
Yeah. So I think their 18 national championships are absolutely legit.
Yeah, I've never really liked
for that.
Yeah, I mean, I've never really liked how we considered 1941 a natty year, but not 1945. But I mean, who knows? Maybe we can make 1945 Alabama the next 1984 BYU.
Our national championships are not like 1984.
I mean, Mark, it goes.
We're not 1984 BYU at all.
Oh, I know. It's just a running joke. For those that are tuning in to the Voice of College Football, you'll hear a lot about 1984 BYU.
Yeah. Well, Mark, I mean, it goes back to what you've written about is the evolution of where we are going with regard to finally a definitive, a fair, it's never happened. I remember, I don't know if y'all have, I saw an interview with Coach Bryant years and years ago. I want to say probably early 80s, maybe 70s, and somebody asked about playoffs, and Coach Bryant even said, I think it's inevitable. You know, because of the controversy, UPI, AP, and all this, everybody else, all these other whatever, giving out, like you said, just proclaiming somebody in a national championship, you know, and then the argument, they didn't earn it. They didn't, you know, this team did this, you know, 66 and that kind of stuff. So it goes back to, you know, the genesis back in the 90s, which is what you wrote about.
Yeah, it's a fun topic. And, you know,
it's amazing. We're here at 2025 and we still haven't solved the issue. Every other sport has, but not football.
All in college football.
Oh, the issues have moved to bigger and better things. All right, NIL and the portal and the settlement. The past is gone for a lot of these people.
You know, every decision the NCAA does just creates more.
The true fans here in the voice of college football, and like Mark himself, we care about this stuff. They don't. It's all about the greed, man.
Oh, man. I'm glad you mentioned the true fans, Jeffrey, because the true fans of college football come right here to the Voice of College Football website, where you got all these tremendous articles, including from Matt Zemek and the busiest woman in the land, Leanne Herring, and you got John Diamo, Zoe Bentler, Ben from Exploring with Ben and Sam in Oregon at the Voice of College Football, Alec Kaiser, who's in here earlier tonight. And you got the host all over the place. You got all of us. You got, Ballard, Mississippi State Live. All of them. There's old Mark. There he is. And you got Matt Zemek, Matthew Miller. All of them. All your favorite hosts. All right here on the Voice College Football website. You got the show lineup. And talk about a huge one. Good grief. Mondays and Tuesdays are loaded. Wednesdays are loaded, but not as loaded as Mondays and Tuesdays. Good grief. And you got the channel lineup. And if your favorite team is not on there, don't worry. It's going to be added. Promise you.
Delta State?
Mary Mac. We need Mary Mac.
Oh. And then there's the forum discussion.
Kent State.
Yeah. Oh, that funny thing is, that is Mark's alma mater, as a matter of fact.
Absolutely.
I got to get better at football, though. That's the thing.
Hey, Mark, have they got a Saban statue somewhere around there?
If they do, they got it hidden in some closet somewhere. But I can't. I've only been on that campus one time since I graduated, so I couldn't tell you a whole lot about Kent State. But the one thing about Kent State, if you really look into it, is for having the worst winning percentage in college football history, major college football history, you can run down a pretty impressive list of people that have coached or graduated, played football at Kent State. It's unbelievable. You know, there's Nick Saban and Don James and Jack Lambert and Antonio Gates and Julian Edelman and Josh Cribbs and
there we go.
James Harrison. You know, you got Super Bowl MVPs and you know, you got you know,
it's amazing.
It's pretty crazy.
It's amazing.
There we go. And there's an article, for example, on the Big 12 historical analysis from Mark Rogers himself, giving out his all-time Big 12 rankings. Who's he got number one? Tune into the video to find out. He's got magic all over the place. And you got those forum discussions, the news articles, all right there. There's your favorite teams, round and round and round. All of them in the Power Four. And then you're eventually going to see a few others, I'm sure. No worries. No worries. Hot seat list. Louisville making moves on Kentucky. And to be honest, I first heard about it from Darrell. I kid you not. I heard about it from Darrell calling in on the Voice College Football. Shout out to our buddy Darrell MVP. Alrighty, so we've got our next topic, the 2025 season. And Mark, you've been going over the record predictions for a lot of these teams in all college football, including South Carolina, Miami, Florida, and a dozen others. How are you feeling about the Crimson Tide, especially looking at their schedule for 2025?
Yeah, this team intrigues me. because obviously they fell far short of Alabama standards last year, but still we're only one game away from the playoffs. And when they were good, but they had those real two just head scratchers of games. But I think if I could go to anybody's August camp, and I know that people are expecting Ty Simpson to be the starter, but I would still, if I was going to go to anywhere the last couple months for spring practice and then in August, it would be to watch Keelan Russell, Austin Mack, and Ty Simpson play quarterback and compete against each other. That would be fascinating. I would love to see those three guys. The running back position, I'm interested in because there are layers of talent behind Jam Miller. I know Justice Haynes obviously went to Michigan, but those guys had to be frustrated to a certain extent because Jalen Milroe kind of took over the offense and they kind of tailored everything around him, even the running game. Mm-hmm. And the running back could become, again, a factor in the Alabama offense. I also think that after what was one of the most incredible runs of wide receiver play in recent college football, that the wide receiver position's been down for 3 or 4 years, but I think it's ready to break out again. Obviously, we know about Ryan Williams. Jeremy Bernard's he's a pro. He's a polished receiver, and I think they're just going to be better at wide receiver than they've been in quite some time. And the offensive line should be really strong. I'm very intrigued to see this team play, and if the quarterback comes through, whoever that's going to be, most likely Ty Simpson, they're loaded on defense. They had a ton of guys who could have went to the NFL that stuck around, and this defense could be one of the top 5 defenses in the country.
I think the defense is the key for us to be really, really good.
I think that defense can be number one. I mean, they've got a lot coming back, and with a lot of experience too. So
I know like college football is trending in an offensive direction, but like our defense, it's just we used to be able to shut teams down, even some of the best offenses. And last year we weren't doing that. We allowed Jackson Arnold to run for 120 yards against Oklahoma. It's like, what are we doing?
Hey, Jeffrey, I got an answer to that, and I'm hoping it changes. I got an answer to that. 3-3-5. Mm-hmm. I mean, Alabama, their base was a 3-3-5. That is a nightmare. I never understood it, and so hopefully that'll change. And I mean, you got to have 4 guys up on the line of scrimmage. 4 guys. I mean, 3-3-5 is too easy to block. And so anyway, but go back, Jeffrey. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting.
Oh, you're good.
I'm hearing footsteps, so I may have to cut out here in a second, Jack.
Yeah, it was just so frustrating watching Alabama's defense last year because it was so inconsistent. I mean, the offense was too, but I mean, we just had no business giving up 41 to Vanderbilt and then allowing Oklahoma to score. I mean, it wasn't the worst defensive performance against Oklahoma because the pick sixes is why we lost and we had no offense in that game. But that's what I want to see. I want to see consistency from Alabama next year. I want to see consistency where every single game, even if they're not having their best game, you see 100% maximum effort being displayed game in and game out like we used to see. That did not happen last year. I know with a new coach, it's harder to coach the team like Nick Saban did. I get that. But there were a lot of moments where we were very lax. You had the LSU game. You had the Georgia first half. We were elite. We were fantastic. And then you had the Vandy game and the Oklahoma game and the Michigan Bowl game and the South Carolina, lots of parts of that game. Tons of games where we were really poor. And it was so sad to see because the talent was there. I don't agree with someone in the comment section said earlier we don't have a QB. I think we've got 3 capable quarterbacks. I just think that one of them has to break out. I've been on the Keelan Russell train. I really want to see him. But if Ty Simpson has earned the job and he starts in week 1, that's great. I think that then that means that Keelan Russell is probably right behind. And if Ty Simpson doesn't do well, then he can come in. But, I just think that at worst, Alabama could be a 10-2 type of team. I'm not making an official prediction yet, but we should be better if our defense is better and as long as our offense has some more consistency than last year to me.
The thing I learned most with regard to coaching is coordinators. And you go into the game plan, and you obviously you think it's the greatest thing on the history of the world and that kind of stuff. But then where you run into problems is where you have coaches that cannot adapt. The defense, the offense, they've changed. They've doing a little different schemes and stuff like that. What do you have, okay, to counter that? And what I saw last year with Alabama is just not an ability to counter what other teams are doing. You follow what I'm saying? It was just sticking with and coaches that just want to stick with the same. And I'm not saying a head coach, you're just manager, but an offense coordinator, defense coordinator, if you're not willing to adapt and do something different, especially by halftime, and really especially by the fourth quarter, it's doomed. And so we'll see how Alabama's offense coordinator, defense coordinator are willing, how well they adapt to what other teams are doing. And I was not very impressed with regard to that.
Well, I mean, I have a unique perspective on it because I watched Indiana, and like a lot of this staff is Indiana. Nick Sheridan, Kane Womack, DeBoer. I was never impressed with Nick Sheridan. He's not great, and he was the OC last year. I don't think that, as a football coach in and of itself, that he's bad. I just don't think he's a great OC. He took over for DeBoer at Indiana, and it completely fell apart. It completely went off the rails.
Well, and definitely to follow up what you're saying, because we talked about it, all of us, is that the idea with regard to changing and adapting and the identity. We never – what was the – Mark, what do you think? What was the identity of Alabama's offense last year? We were running game, throwing game, hurry up. No, what was the identity? We never had one.
I think Jalen Milroe was the identity.
Yeah, just
he put too much on his plate, and that's why his play regressed.
Well, when our running game was 125 rushing yards or more, we were winning. But when it was less than, the only game we won was South Carolina, and we almost lost that one.
Yeah, I forgot. There was one other game we did well again. It was Missouri. It was the Missouri game. And I know Missouri didn't have their starting quarterback in that game, but we ran the ball in that game.
Yeah.
And that was probably one of our better offensive performances was against Missouri.
And against LSU. And that's why I was mystified that LSU could never figure out that Jalen Milroe basically just – like if you look at the numbers of that game and they just back up watching the game, that – he completed about 4 or 5 meaningful passes downfield, and otherwise the running backs did nothing. He just ran the same play over and over, and they blocked it, and LSU could never stop it.
That was one of Brian Kelly's worst games ever as a head coach. I mean, that was despicable. Because, I mean, literally, I was watching the game, and I'm like, Bama's doing the same thing again and again and again. Yeah. And they're not even – it's like playing, like, the NCAA football or Madden or whatever, and you're just running the same play again and again, and the computer can't stop it. I've done that before. You just keep running the same play, and it breaks the team for some reason, and that's the way it was. LSU – we could have played 8 quarters against them, and they would have never figured it out. They were just letting us run all over.
Well, I pulled up a comment a little while ago where Ralph Wolf says he wants Bama to pummel Vandy in the mouth. Mark, does his wish come true this year?
Well, I got to think so, although I don't know that Vandy's going to allow them to be pummeled like they have in the past.
No.
I think they'll put up a fight, but Alabama's certainly going to be a good 15 to 20 point favorite in that game.
Coming off the Georgia game, though, too. I mean, it depends on the result in that game, how well we played, too, I would believe.
Yeah. And that South Carolina game, I've been worrying about that one constantly. Yeah. Because that's the homecoming game for South Carolina, but I won't spoil too much, but if you tune in to Mark's video on the 2025 South Carolina record prediction, he does not have them having a 10-win season. I'll put it at that. But how are you feeling about South Carolina, Mark?
I think they lost so much on defense that it's going to be difficult for them to replace it. And I think their schedule's brutal down the backstretch. They start with, in the SEC, Kentucky, Vandy, and Mizzou.
Ugh.
So it's fairly light. And then it is just the last 7 games on that schedule might be the toughest 7-game stretch in the country.
Yeah, A&M's gunning for blood.
It's kind of giving like Florida vibes from last year. Florida's schedule and like Billy Napier, should be toast. And then their schedule ended up not being as hard as expected somehow.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the year, it kind of fizzled. Like some of the teams faded, and then obviously Lagway saved the day. I still believe that Florida could have won that game if Lagway doesn't get hurt against Georgia. I think they could have beat Georgia.
Yeah,
they had a shot. I do have to ask. I know we're talking Bama, Mark, but I have to ask you though. I kept telling people that Georgia could have easily been 8-5 last year, and people said I was crazy. I don't think I was crazy. They were very close to 8-5.
Well, for Florida to hang with them, and I can remember the name of the third-string quarterback who was playing. So Mertz wasn't even playing in that game, and then once Lagway got hurt, I can't think of the guy's name, but that was playing quarterback for Florida. But for the Gators to hang that close to Georgia, and obviously Georgia only beat a bad Kentucky team by a point.
In the Georgia Tech game, I mean, like, they were not good.
No, they were not good in that game either. Georgia
was not good. I mean, I had people saying I was crazy for saying they should have been an 8-win team. I mean, they literally should have been an 8-win team.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but I remember the Haynes King target.
Oh, yeah.
That bothers me. That Haynes King was hit right on the helmet, the crown of the helmet, and they did not even review it. They did not even call anything. And he fumbled on that play, and Georgia Tech was winning when that happened. And then Georgia ended up winning, making the playoffs. Georgia should not have made the playoffs last year. To me, it was Kirby's worst team in years last year.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, it was.
Well, to your point, Jeffrey, Mississippi State had Georgia on upset alert at one point.
Yeah, I mean, they literally were horrible in like 4 of the games they won.
Texas should have had a nice lead at halftime of the SEC championship game against them. The yardage total in that, Texas just blew so many chances early.
It's like for us last year, the Georgia win was what made people be like, all right, Bama's still good despite having those bad losses. And for Georgia, it was the 2 Texas wins. Because other than that, the rest of the season, they were horrible. Yeah. Against multiple bad teams. The Kentucky game, I completely forgot. I've mentioned it 100 times before. I forgot about it just now. But, yeah, that game, the Georgia Tech game, Florida, I was rooting for Lagway. I was pulling so hard for Lagway, and then he goes down, and I'm like, no. I mean, they were winning. Florida was winning the game. And I told some Georgia fans, like, you do remember that Lagway and Florida were winning before he got hurt. Like, no, they weren't. I mean, they were so pretentious last year, Mark, saying, oh, we're still really great. We're dominating the SEC. I'm like, you could have went 8-5, 7-6. You were not a great team last year. Carson Beck was not great last year. Nobody was great last year. And all the off-the-field stuff, I feel like it's really hurting them. So, I mean, Georgia's got to get their act together. They do.
I don't even think it's an argument. I made the statement a couple of weeks ago that this is the worst Georgia team since Kirby Smart's first year.
I don't disagree with that at all. I agree,
gentlemen,
100%.
That's what happens when you have Mike Bobo as your offensive coordinator. That is what happens. And I think at some point, if Georgia's wanting to go back to having natties, they're not going to have a natty as long as Mike Bobo's their offensive coordinator. That is, mark my words.
Yeah. Hey, guys, I've got duty calls. Jack, I'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right. You can check out Coach Burtz on Johnny H. Burtz on Instagram, and give him a follow. Give him a friend request on Johnny Burtz 5 on Facebook. Tune in for more. We're going
to have a good one, Johnny.
All right. Thank y'all. Bye.
Stay away from that heat, Coach. Oh man. So all in all, looking at the records, like the whole schedule, like the Georgia game, that's gonna be a good one for week 5. Tennessee, top revenge game for the Crimson Tide. LSU, I really don't know what version we're gonna get.
I still can't believe people think they're a top 10 team preseason.
You don't even want to look. Don't look at the Lindy's magazine then, because like they
love them. They love them. And I get it. If you look at the personnel, I can see it, but
no, Nussmeier, man, he's a 3-pick QB every game.
They're gonna have to prove it. Yeah.
Look at Oklahoma having a number next to their name right there after last year, man. And I know we got no room, so we got blown out. But, man, Oklahoma was not good last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they were on defense.
Oof.
It's true.
The Auburn game.
But yeah, they were so incredibly bad on offense.
Auburn, that's the one that's really scaring me right there because, like, the last time we won by double digits against the Auburn Tigers was in 2015. That was and one of those moments was because of the fact Coach Muschamp was just losing it on those referees. He was like off his Adderall that day.
I remember that.
Well, Jackson, thanks for having me. I'm going to let you guys wrap it up here and finish out the show, and I need to head out as well.
All right, you can tune into that
Mark.
2021 Michigan Ohio State watch party that Mark is hosting tonight. You can give him a follow, Mark Rogers BOCFB on @/Twitter and on Instagram. Tune in for more.
And how about this book?
Exactly, the Disputed National Champions College Football's Historical 1990s Reset, the college football go-to, the historical landscape for all college football fans for the 90s. And at some point, we'll definitely have to ask Mark which decade is next.
Would love to write another one.
There we go.
That would be perfect.
All right, man. Well, thank you for coming on, Mark.
Absolutely.
And we will definitely be seeing you soon.
Yeah, thanks for the invite. Good to see you
Have
guys.
a great night, Mark. Appreciate you coming on.
All righty, like that 2025 season, I think 10-2, hopefully 11-1, but
I'm still thinking 10-2. Again, not official prediction. I will have that later on as we get closer to the start of the college football season this year. But I'm more leaning towards 10-2. There's a lot of tricky games on the schedule. I still don't trust our team completely. And 10-2 would be, in this new playoff era of 12 teams, it would be good enough for DeBoer. It would be a good season. So I don't see it being an issue at all with that schedule to win 10 games. They can do it. Any better than that would be amazing. Any worse than that would be disappointing again. There's just too many tricky games for me to believe that they'll go 11-1 most likely. But again, not an official prediction. But that's kind of where my head is at right now.
Agreed. Well, Jeffrey, I gotta ask you, what have you got going on this week in your world?
Definitely just keep on posting more prediction videos on the ACC. That will keep coming out. I'm probably going to try to do for the other conferences, whether, me and Will are able to team up again or, I'm able to just release it myself. Definitely have that content coming over on my YouTube channel, Only Talk Sports. Definitely appreciate if you go give it a sub over there and have more videos on the way for the 2025 college football season. Now that basketball is over, and now that the NBA is done and college basketball, all that stuff, our attention returns to football with college football and NFL on the way. Definitely excited to talk some more football. So, again, appreciate a sub over there. Also, a follow on my Twitter account as well, @OnlyTalkSports. Definitely, every single day I usually post something on that crazy platform. It's always wild to see what people are talking about in the sports world for sure. So I definitely appreciate that. And definitely subscribe down below to Alabama, the Voice of College Football. We are here every Monday and Thursdays for the Crimson Tide Live Show and the Call-In Show on Thursday nights. Always a fantastic time with you guys, you in the chat. Appreciate all your support and definitely excited for our next show on Thursday. It's going to be a blast, I'm sure.
Agreed. We've got a wild lineup coming up on Alabama, the Voice of College Football. And thanks to you guys, we're 52 subs away from that magic number, 2,700 subs. So we're getting closer, and we're getting closer to 3,000. One thing to remember is, Texas was the last SEC team in the playoffs, but that doesn't mean they're better than us. Help us show that we are better than Texas by subscribing, liking, commenting, sharing, and clicking on that notification bell to Alabama with the Voice of College Football. And, of course, you can check me out on Jackson Johnson 979, I'm 320 subs away from that magic number 1,000. And on the next episode, the Jacksonians, matter of fact, I'm going to be having on Samuel Recker from College Football with Sam, where we're going to be talking a lot about college football. I won't spoil it too much, but it's going to be a fun, wild ride for sure. And, of course, you can check me out on Jackson VOCFB on X/Twitter and on Instagram and Threads at Jackson Johnson 543908, where I've not only got updates on Alabama with the Voice of College Football, the Jacksonian, and my weekly calls on the Paul Feinbaum Show, where the weekend's full of surprises. And you can check out Crimson Tide Live and the Alabama Primetime Live Show on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and iHeartRadio, including tomorrow's edition of Primetime Live. And, of course, there's the Voice of College Football X account with top-notch discussion, debate, analysis with no off-season. Well, you know, you got to treat the Troy Trojans, a retro team. Oh, my God. Corey Robinson. Man, that's big. And you got the Voice College Football Instagram account, where you got the College Football 26 cover. You got Syracuse all-time offense, Jim Brown and Ernie Davis. Like, good grief, that's awesome. And you got the TikTok account. I don't like TikTok, but when I do, I tune into the Voice College Football TikTok account. And there's the Facebook account, where you got top-notch stuff all over the place, all over from the Voice College Football. So, like, comment, subscribe, click on the notification bell so you never miss no video or other magic for what we've got going on Alabama with the Voice College Football. And we will see you soon. And roll
Tide.